So, hello again. Welcome, everyone. We have today for you a training session on fair soil data in practice in collaboration with our partners at SoilWise. My name is Bram Drijvers. I work for Climate Kick, and we are responsible for the capability building activities under Soil Step Up. And I will be introducing today's training and today's speakers to you. Before diving in, there is a few things I would like to very quickly run through. On our next slide, we have some housekeeping rules. We will have a very interactive session today, so we encourage you to really speak up and share your thoughts. But that said, when not speaking, please keep your microphone muted so that we can all hear our today's speaker as well, and also each other. Also, we will have some time for discussion towards the end, but if you have a question in the meantime, please be encouraged to raise your hand or put your question in the chat, and we'll make sure to address it. We will have some parts for which we will be using Miro. I'm sure many of you will be familiar with it. It's a collaborative tool. It's fairly intuitive, I would say, but if you do have any issues, let me know in the chat and we'll try to support. And then also in light of interaction, if you don't mind, we would love for you to turn on your cameras and also rename yourself in Zoom. So add your full name and the name of your organization. It is for us to have an idea of who we're talking to, but also it will help smoothen the allocation to breakout rooms later. So if you don't mind, please change your name here. You can do that by right-clicking your video and then scrolling down to rename. That said, though, this session is being recorded, so if you're not really comfortable, feel free to turn off your cameras and also to anonymize your Zoom name if you want. Then a quick disclaimer that Soil Step Up and also SoilWise are funded by the EU. But the views and opinions are not necessarily those of the EU or the Research Executive Agency. And the content is licensed under Creative Commons. We've added a link here in the slide. If you want to read more into it, we will share this all with you afterwards, so you can find all the details on that. Then on the topic of today, I think many of you will have seen the Soil Learning Journey. It's the framework for all our capacity building activities. It's designed to equip the soil health living labs and lighthouses with tools and knowledge and all the frameworks needed. It's based on continuous assessments of needs and interests through surveys and also the M&E results. And for today, it means that we've identified this training on soil data and knowledge and how to use soil data and soil knowledge in practice. Because as you can see here at the core of this learning journey and also the soil mission, we have the aim of healthy soils by 2030. If you go to the next slide, it's an essential part of effective soil management to have access to high quality and actionable data. But that's not always easy to find. It's not always easy to access, and there's not always standardized or harmonized data available. And so there are many moving parts and different actors involved, where soil data and knowledge is being created on different levels. And so using soil data and soil knowledge can be costly and can be challenging, because of which the goal of the soil mission and also of us and of SoilWise is to then improve that system around soil data. And that's really where SoilWise and our collaboration with SoilWise comes in. And if you go to the next slide, so this is on SoilWise, and we've started really collaborating with them because their mission very much aligns with what we think is needed for our living labs. SoilWise aims to provide an integrated and actionable access point to soil data and soil knowledge in Europe, with an aim to make the data fair and to improve trust and willingness and the ability to share and reuse that data. And today we will hear from some technical specialists at the SoilWise Consortium. which is a consortium, sorry, of 14 partners in 7 countries. It's a mix of technical research partners, soil scientists, legislators, businesses. So it's a very diverse group of people. The project runs from September 23 to 27, but it will also after that continue to have an impact through the integration of solutions in the EU Soil Observatory. Then I wanted to quickly reiterate what we already communicated are the training objectives. So what's important is to support the European integration, so to align your Living Lab activities with the broader mission and EUSO objectives. Then it's about enhancing the visibility of your Living Labs data and knowledge, and to make sure it's easily discoverable. Then on the other hand, to then access other European insights, so to really learn how to navigate the SoilWise Catalogue, and finally to implement the FAIR principles in practice and moving beyond just the theory. Then for the agenda, we're going to start after this with the introduction of some general concepts. So again, how to discover data and knowledge in SoilWise and how to make your data and knowledge discoverable. Then we'll hear from some success stories before we then deep dive into some specific elements and tools. And this will be based on what you've indicated to be interested in the registration form. And then we'll have some wrapped ups and impressions before we then close at 2:30. Yes, so before handing over to the real experts, we very quickly wanted to hear also from you. So we're going to start a poll here in Zoom that will have you indicate which of the mission soil objectives you or your Living Lab most associate with or are most interested in, which is good for getting an idea for us who we have here in the room, but also we're going to be using this information later today in our final breakout room. So great if you can just very quickly answer this one question. And I will give you a minute for that. And in the meantime, I will check if there's anything already in the chat. No, only AI. Great. Okay. Well, let's leave this open, and I will already introduce our first speaker from the SoilWise project, which is Dajana Snopkova. I hope I pronounced it right, on how to discover data and knowledge in SoilWise. Dajana, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Brent, for a nice introduction of me and also our SoilWise project. So I'll be here talking to you about the products that we develop in SoilWise and yeah, basically what that means for you. And we will dive in deeper together on the SoilWise metadata catalog, also together with my colleague Vanessa, who will lead another breakout room. Yeah, so first, if you as a user want to access our SoilWise products, what are your options? Yeah, last but the most important thing basically in the SoilWise is the metadata catalog, which provides a structured, let's say, look onto the metadata that we harvest from different sources. The second option is the Soil Companion, where you can ask actually natural language questions and chat with our Soil Companion. He's using except of the data that is published through the metadata catalog. It also uses or accesses other soil resources such as ISRIC soil grids or AgroData Cube. It also provides you with citations, which is nice. Yeah, and also, I mean, all of these links, you can either use the QR or I will then later put them into the chat. Yeah, next one is the SoilWalk browser. This is to basically browse through different concepts and terms. It aggregates multiple vocabularies. So it comes really handy if you want to publish your metadata and annotate them properly. And last but not least is the soil health knowledge graph, which is built around of the EEA report, the soil monitoring in Europe. Yeah, and all the concepts are mapped together, and this specific link leads to the presentation on AgroPortal. So you can also visit that one. What about if you are a robot or are trying to integrate with SoilWise as an external system? So we also provide a set of standardized APIs, as you can see. Some of them are meant for harvesting the catalog content, other are for filtering or querying metadata, and we also provide Sparkle endpoint for querying like the linked data and knowledge. Again, this QR code leads to our technical documentation. I must admit that at this point, these links are not, let's say, updated, because just end of this month, we are preparing a release of the new version. But what we will be showing you today, for example, with the metadata catalog, that's our latest advancements. Yeah, and this is how it can look like in the practice, basically, when an external system is integrated with SoilWise. Yeah. So what about the SoilWise metadata catalog? So this is exactly our goal, to create a single access point to the European soil data and soil knowledge. We are trying to bridge different repositories together. These are scholar repositories such as OpenAir, for example, or Zenodo, also national geoportals, and yeah, and also we are harvesting soil mission project outputs. If they are not published on Zenodo, then we go through a specific endpoints and APIs. Yeah, as I mentioned, the metadata catalog is more metadata focused and provides a structured set of search results compared to the chatbot, which is more like natural querying. Yes, to introduce briefly, so when you visit our project website, now you can, under resources, found the homepage of our catalog. But what you can find here is not just the link to the metadata catalog, but also to the soil companion and some statistics, and also link to our FAIR guidances, which Celine will introduce later. But this first part is actually about the soil metadata catalog. And just to briefly, very briefly introduce our user interface, we will dive into that more into breakout room. So the first part, search for the full text search. You can, yeah, search within the titles, abstracts, and keywords. Then we have multiple filtering options that enable you to narrow down the search results, such as search for specific resource type, only knowledge or data or journal articles. Then we have thematic filters, which enable filtering by license, language, projects, the source where the actual resource is harvested from, and also the keywords that are used by metadata producers. The temporal filters enable filtering by publish date or temporal coverage, and the spatial filter that's very much improved since the last version, that enables you to search by countries or draw a bounding box or even a free form. Yeah, and there is the result section. There is also download option of the results, and also sorting, and the records detail, of course. Yeah, and yeah, and also the help button. Yeah, if you are not, yeah, if you don't know how to use the catalog, there's always the help button. But I hope that we can learn it together later. So that's was all from my side, and I would like to give my word to Celine, which will take you through how to publish your data and knowledge on SoilWise.
So thank you a lot, Diana, for this very nice presentation. So about the discoverability, how to discover data and knowledge onto SoilWise. And this time we are going to switch and to discuss about how to make your data and knowledge discoverable onto SoilWise. So this part is the introduction of the breakout session about the metadata for fair data and knowledge. And just an information for all of you, all these slides, these ones and the ones that you will see in the breakout session will be related to a practical guide of SoilWise for data knowledge providers that we published onto Zenodo. So I send you the link into the chat, the DOI into the chat. So it is here, it's coming, just here. So for this presentation, we'll discuss on how SoilWise Catalogue provides data and knowledge references, and we will go towards the guidances overview for fair data and knowledge. And so this presentation will be made for the breakout session by myself. So I am Céline Bliss-Frère from Sirad in the south of France, as well with Thomas Pavelka from Masaryk University. So next slide, please. Thank you. So first, how SoilWise Catalogue provides data and knowledge references. So as you could see in Diana's presentation, so when you make a query into SoilWise, for example, here on the left, you can make a query for pH, soil, agroforestry. You click on search. And then on the right of the screen, you will have a lot of results appearing. For example, for this query, you can have 2,000 results appearing. So how can SoilWise provide you all these results? Next slide. So in this case, SoilWise is harvesting a lot of data and knowledge source repositories. For example, SoilWise is harvesting national portals, institutional portals. So for example, you can have Dataverse repositories from different institutions or universities. You can have Zenodo source repository. You can have the Cordis repository, Data Europa. Well, there is a lot of repositories harvesting by SoilWise. And from all these repositories, SoilWise is not getting the data and the metadata, but, sorry, not the data and knowledge, but only the metadata. SoilWise is a catalog of metadata. So on your site, next slide, please. If you want to make a deposit on SoilWise, you don't have to make it directly on SoilWise. It's not possible. If you want to link your data and knowledge to SoilWise, then instead you will have to choose a repository already harvested by SoilWise next, such as, for example, national portals, Bonares repository, Zenodo, or Cordis. And next slide. And then depending on your results type or record type, we can say, you could choose the repository which is matching your needs. For example, if you have European reports, you can go onto Cordis. If you have data and knowledge, then you will have different source repository, such as Dataverse for institutions, like Dataverse CIRAD, for example. If you have collaborations with CIRAD, you have Bonares repository. For example, if you have data or knowledge from long-term experiments. You have as well Zenodo repository, which is the repository recommended by the European Commission. Zenodo, for example, is available for all the scientific domain. It means that you can provide on Zenodo soil-related data and knowledge, but you can find also a different kind of knowledges like astrophysics knowledge. So it's very general. And if you want to see your peer-reviewed scientific publications onto SoilWise as well, you will have to choose an editor which is linked to SoilWise. And how to know that a platform is linked to SoilWise? It is because it is harvested by OpenAir. It is OpenAir Hub, which is making the link between the source repositories and SoilWise. So next slide, please. So for example, following your type of result, so as we said, you will have different kind of repository to choose. So as we said, European project is called this. Peer review journal articles, it will be a non-predatory editors, which will be harvested by OpenAir. So it will be in link with SoilWise. If you have, for example, PDF documents or videos or images, one more time, these documents, you can upload them onto a source repository, such as a Dataverse platform of an institution, or Zenodo, for example, or other kind of repositories. The main thing, one more time, is that these repositories must be linked to OpenAir. And so for also the type of knowledge corresponding to websites, web services, or softwares and source files, it is the same. You can use platforms such as Zenodo or Dataverse platform or other repositories. The only thing is that in that case, you will have an intermediate step. You will have to extract the source codes of these products, the source codes of the websites or the source codes of the software. And with the source files, you could upload them onto a source repository of your choice. So next slide, please. The only thing is that the source repository must be, as we said, harvested by OpenAir to be linked to SoilWise. And how to know that? Verify if your favorite source repository is harvested by OpenAir, so a link with SoilWise. You just have to go on this URL on the screen and verify if your source repository is there. If it is the case, then it is harvested by SoilWise. And this information should be mentioned in the data management plan of your project. So next slide, please. So now, to ensure that your data or knowledge is fair, we are going to see now the guidances overview. So FAIR is the principle for findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. Next. So if you want your data to be, or your knowledge to be linked to SoilWise, in that case, you will match the F and the A criteria of FAIR. If you can see that your data and knowledge is discoverable onto SoilWise, is that you have matched the F and the A. And for this, there is 3 mandatory criteria. So first, as we said, choosing a repository harvested by SoilWise, but also when you will make the publication of your data or knowledge onto a source repository harvested by SoilWise, make sure that you add the soil keywords in the title or the description of your record. And secondly, add the grant agreement number of your mission soil project into the metadata as well. And then we could find your results. It will be harvested by SoilWise. And of course, if it's not the case, feel free to contact our team. So we wanted to highlight this key criteria to ensure that your data and knowledge are linked to SoilWise. But when you are linking your data and knowledge to SoilWise, it's not the same than working on your data and knowledge so that it can be interoperable and reusable. So next, for example, you can link your data and knowledge onto SoilWise, but you can also link them without any interoperability and reusability. That's the reason why in the guidances, we will also focus on this part of interoperability and reusability, because these 2 criteria ensure you that your data and knowledge can be reused outside of your team for a community who does not know about your data and knowledge. So next, please. So to finish, that's the reason why in the breakout session about FAIR metadata, we will propose you to see some recommendations also to make your data and knowledge interoperable and reusable. So we will discuss about the choice of the repository. Then we will have a section about the metadata filling, especially to have your data and knowledge interoperable and reusable. Then we will see an example of the preparation of the data themselves, the content of the data, one more time for the interoperable and reusable criteria. If we have time and if you need it into the Living Labs, we could also show you an example for a website preparation. We will see that according to your needs. And then as last step, we will see how to publish a record and verify if it is discoverable onto SoilWise. And we will make all this with the example of a deposit onto the Zenodo recommended repository. So I'm done now, and I'm going to give the floor to Valeh Khaledi.
Thank you, Céline, for your nice presentation. And basically, my colleagues made the work easier for this slide. Hi, everyone. My name is Valeh, and I'm going to present to you the journey of a success story, basically how things that were explained were implemented through a story. So we look at it from two perspectives. First, from the data part, and second, from the reuse part, how the data was established and submitted to a repository, which is harvested by SoilWise, and then how this data can be reused in a scientific study. So the data for this story begins with a lysimeter station in Germany. The data was collected by the field people, and then they prepared the data to fit the Bonares repository, which is a long-term field experiments repository platform established at ZALF. So after submitting this data set to Bonares is fully harvestable by SoilWise. So SoilWise harvests the data set, and it's findable and accessible, as Céline already explained. So this data now, if we check it in SoilWise Catalogue, we can find the data which gets a title, as you see here. And in this new platform of SoilWise, it's really nice that we can see all the details at the same page. So you can see the title, the fitting keywords that was selected by the data provider, and the person who provides the data, who is Ottfried Dietrich. You see the contact person here, and the link that addressed to the data set. And as you see, the source is from Bonares. So if we press the link, we will be sent to Bonares webpage, as you see here. And we can see all the data, and we can press the download to see which data are available. As the list shows here, we can choose which data we need. It can be in any format, and then we put our email address in the blank place, and by accepting it, we can download, and the data will be sent to our email. Now, if we look at it from the other perspective, let's say I want to do a modeling study on a grassland and need groundwater level data and climate vegetation. So this data can be found in lysimeter, and my target is also in Germany. I can look for the data in different options. Let's say if I want to collect the data from the field myself, it brings me a lot of organizational work, planning resources, and if I explore through papers, I might not be finding the all inputs that I need. And if I just randomly search through Google, the data or the input that I receive might not be valid. But here SoilWise helps to be linked to the valid and organized published input. So I could find the data for the modeling study, which is here, as I mentioned in the beginning. And since it's here, it's reusable. and based on the standards that is following, it's also interpretable. So as you see the journey here, the data moves from the collection to reuse through SoilWise. In this example, the data was used in a modeling study and then published in a scientific journal. In this publication, you can see that it's also referred back to the data set, which means that the data can be reused again, and what is found in this paper also can be reused again by being submitted to SoilWise. So this helps the data to be secured and the knowledge from it also to be reusable, so nothing is lost and everything is there and findable, and all follows this FAIR principle. And in next, I will be glad to give the stage for our colleague for the breakout session. Yeah.
Thanks everyone for a nice presentation with the general FAIR principles and some good examples of what can come from the good practices. As everyone clearly memorized the agenda that Bram presented in the beginning, you will now know we're going into a deep dive at this point where we have 5 different breakout rooms. There are still some difficulties with people not having their full name as they registered or haven't made some registration in advance of coming here. So we're dividing everyone, but and hope you get what you asked for. You can still switch from on demand if I looking a little bit to the organization parts. Maybe some introductions of the 5 different choices we had. The SoilWise Catalogue will give a deeper introduction of the product, the metadata catalog we have developed inside the SoilWise project. Shaping your data governance, data management plan, high level of how you would approach these principles. The geo package goes deeper into an interoperable way of saving your data and in a bigger structure and have everything aligned. Making tabular data files interoperable will teach you some concepts of making annotations next to your data files of the data itself, and then the last room will go deeper into the metadata of your publication. There again, like good practices for publishing on Zenodo. I'm now looking in the direction of Bram and Gabriella. I don't know if you're ready with everything. And
Yes.
we can move on to
Yes.
the okay, perfect, good to hear. It's a 30-minute breakout session where we chose for small groups to get all your interactions captured together with the highly technically and then very nice people of SoilWise. So really enjoy those 30 minutes and we will see you back then.